Hi there. My name is Dominic. I have a few questions for you. Number one is, are you trying to scale your business and your customer service system along with it? So are you trying to scale your Zendesk? Do you want to see if you're using Zendesk to its full potential? And do you want to know how to make your Zendesk more efficient? So if the answer to any of these questions is yes, or to all of these questions is yes, then this is the video for you. So again, my name is Dominic. Nice to meet you. Welcome to my channel. So I have 8 years of experience as working as a Zendesk consultant. I've been a Zendesk partner for the past 2 years. I have been subcontracted by Zendesk to work on projects exactly like the one I'm going to present to you right now, where I answer the questions to the questions that I started out with. And yeah, so optimizing your Zendesk. This is essentially what we're going to be discussing today. And I'm going to take you on a journey of how to do that. And by the end of this video, you'll be able to hopefully be able to have a little bit more insight as to how you can view or see or approach scaling your Zendesk, optimizing it, and using it to its full potential. I have used this methodology while working at Zendesk, and I'm here to share some of that knowledge with you because I know this might help out some of you. And yeah, there's nothing more than that I enjoy but sharing knowledge. So buckle up. This is going to be quite an in-depth analysis. I'm going to walk you through some of the steps. I'm going to walk you through some of the documentation that you need to gather. It's not going to be easy, but it's not very complicated either. So yeah, let's begin. Okay, so the number one thing that we start out with when optimizing your Zendesk is thinking about the system and how it's being used, right? So in order to do that, you have to do an account assessment. I recommend that you do that every 6 months or maybe once a year. Depends on what the intensity is that you use your Zendesk. So I recommend that you start out with an account health check. So an account health check is essentially a document where you go in through the settings and everything that it has been set up in your Zendesk, and you bring it forth um, into a document which can help you give you some insight into the quick fixes that you can choose to do, and also the midterm things that you need to put on your list, on your to-do list, in order to optimize your system, and of course some of the more how should I call them? So the long-term view of how you can do things better in the future. So an account health check is something which I would like to share to show you how it looks like. I'm going to walk you through a document which I normally take around, let's say, a day of work. Depends on the size of the account. If the Zendesk has not been used very intensely, then it doesn't necessarily take that long. But for this particular client that I have done this system optimization, it was a 300 plus agent seat account, so it's fairly large. It had so it's a telephony system that uses Zendesk as their customer service tool, and obviously I can't give out the name, but it's a big company that uses Zendesk for support. And essentially what has happened is like as I see with 90% of people that use Zendesk, they start out with the system with limited understanding. They set it up to their best knowledge, and then after 2 years, maybe they leave the company, they change position, and somebody else comes along, and that system, which has already been set up with limited understanding of what the impact is of how you set some things, some business rules here, and then how it affects, for example, you moving forward in 2 years or in 6 months without caring for that. Then a new team comes along with their limited understanding of Zendesk, because nobody wants to learn how this tool works, because they obviously everyone has their own regular job, and learning about Zendesk is a whole job in itself. So that's why you have consultants like myself that help you with that. This is aimed at helping you, the ones that want to learn, and to help them out. And it's also aimed at companies that would like to maybe to hire someone to do that for them. So going back to this use case, to this example of a 300 plus company using Zendesk, first team did a bad job. Second team came, did another bad job as well. So they set up the system again according to how they understood it, again to the changes within the company, because when you run a company which is growing, you always have to have in mind, you have to be mindful of changes that come about, which is normal. It's totally normal. You don't have to do something, you set it in stone. There is one way of doing it in Zendesk, and then you don't have to change anything else. But obviously, there are some things that the better you understand the product, the better choices you can make, and the less impact you have on other areas. Now, I came in to when the third team had come along, which obviously had taken on the setup of two previous teams. And this third team came along, and how much they understood Zendesk, then they applied that knowledge, which was ended up being basically making them stuck. Like, okay, we give up. We have over 600 triggers. We have 120 groups. We have 150 views. We have I don't know, it's like 1,000 macros. So automations like over 100. So it's like the big mess. It's the biggest mess I've seen so far. But it's the biggest mess that I've been able to clean up. So I'm using this as an example because I see this happening more often than not to the different, let's say, the different level at the company's at. This one is big, is a big company, so a lot of business rules, but small companies do the same mistakes. And hence, obviously, there's less cleanup to do, but they do have they run into the same hurdles and are having trouble with their business. Basically scaling it. That's the number one thing. Now, account health check. Let me share my screen. This is how it works in here. I share my screen. I show you how things look like, and then we discuss them. And yeah, you have a basic idea of what that is. So let me share my screen. I hope you can see it. Let me close this up. Okay, so this is an account review. This is an example. I've taken out anything that is referencing the project that this was done for. So it's structured like in the following manner. So you have the account information, which is like the company URL, account name, then the languages that have been used, time zone that has been used. So this one was based in the UK. Subscription type, this was an enterprise. It had what add-ons it had on. So I'm not going to go through all these details because I don't want to bore you with that. Customer was using also Sunshine, which is the new data model structure from Zendesk. They had use a single sign-on with JSON Web Token. They had security SSL enabled for all brands. It was a multi-brand. It uses multi-brand. It had 5 brands. So I bring everything out, and then I give some observations and recommendations. This is the structure that I use. Then moving along, there's the channel setup. So what you can do here is you want to bring out and take out all the emails that have been set up that are tied to each brand. So in doing that, you might discover that there are some DNS settings that are broken or some forwarding rules that are broken. In this case, the company didn't use all that many emails. They used quite a lot, but quite a few, but not a lot. It's nothing compared to some of the other projects that I work on. So each brand had a number of emails. Some of them had forwarding rules broken. Some of them had SPF and DNS settings that were not set up. So domain name server. also broken. So, and then some emails were failing to feed into Zendesk. So obviously that's a loss, because if somebody sends you an email to an email that you have in your main website somewhere, put in like support at mycompany.com, and the users send emails to that, they basically don't end up in Zendesk, and that's a loss, because those customers are expecting you to get back to them, and you having these rules broken up, and those requests don't end up in the system. So that's not a very cool thing to do, to happen actually to your customers. You don't want to be that guy or that person. Sorry. Okay, moving forward. Yeah, set up for Twitter and Facebook. So this customer was using only for two of the brands. They were using some um, yeah, their Facebook, their Twitter not. I asked the question, why aren't you using the Facebook or Twitter for on a more, let's say, on a more frequent basis, because people are there and they do want to communicate with you, um, yeah, in a more direct fashion, like more, um, everybody, like right now there's a switch to social messaging, right? So people are, companies and brands are trying to offer support within their customers' favorite social media platform. And they communicate, for example, through WhatsApp and Messenger, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, because people are where they are, and you shouldn't necessarily limit yourself to only offering support in certain channels. So there's, for example, in this case, I made a suggestion, like, why don't you maybe extend your the way that your customers are able to reach you, not just these broken email links that, sorry, email setups. I mean, that's not only that you have you offer support on email, but those are broken. So the forwarding rules are broken. Not cool. Um, so yeah, that's another aspect. So customers want to, via social media, to communicate much in the same way that they do with their friends and family, and it can be like an ongoing conversation, which Zendesk allows you to have, creates a ticket on behalf of the requester, and it doesn't necessarily pull in an agent unless the customer requires them, because you can have some AI on top of that and give suggestions with articles based on the keywords that the customer uses. So maybe an agent isn't even uh, required to show up until the customer says, "I want to talk to a human." Okay. So now the chats, because customer was not using chat. I really recommend having chat agents. So in this particular account health check, so these documents are not part of the same, let's say, umbrella. You'll see what I mean, because this is just the beginning, the account health check. Okay, so now more questions around chat and talk. Text, they weren't using it. Then the guide, they were using the guide or the help center for all the brands, and that was very good, because they all had knowledge base articles in them, and customers could go in, search for them, and get answers to their questions in a more direct fashion, and they would be able to self-serve, which was great. Okay, so now I had here some ideas about, for example, moving on to the widget, and yeah, asking questions like, why don't you have the web widget? Web widget is used, but it was in an inconsistent manner. So it would be advisable to have, for example, the forums activated in the widget, because customers, maybe you know this. So for example, the widget can be used with multiple functionalities, right? You can browse the knowledge base. You can submit a request, you can request a chat, or you can maybe request a phone call. So these are the four functionalities that the web widget allows you to use inside Zendesk. And now there's an additional one. There's the chatbots. So you can leverage that functionality as well. Okay, so yes, use the web widget. Very important to keep it on your main website so your customers are able to interact with it, search the knowledge base, submit a request. Why not? Uh, all in the spirit of trying to deflect some tickets, because if you, for example, just allow them to browse the knowledge base, very good, then there you have some people that answer their questions directly from there. If they still need help, then yes, why not allow them to submit a request via the form. Okay, now the API. So yeah, in this case, it was used, but not necessarily very well, because there were some API in tokens created, but they hadn't been used for 2 years, 1 year, yeah, 6 months, 5 months, or never used. So the recommendation is to disable API keys that have not been used for 3 months or more than that. So that's going to be can be removed. What are the two tokens? Yeah, so I'm asking like, what are some of the things in here doing, so I can understand if there's an integration with a third party or something which I'm not aware of. So this is all, when it's done, I go ahead and I have a conversation with the client and discuss this, like what's going on, because this all helps me understand and helps you understand more about how the business is set up. So mobile SDK, so software developer kit. So in this case, the users are able to anonymously send tickets. It can be a security liability. Yeah, so recommended configuring the JWT to securely authenticate users. So so you know who is reaching out to you, rather than you just get these anonymous requests, right? And you can't even know who the person is that you are trying to serve. All right, so in this case, okay, so people, so I have the indexing here. This is the number of people, organizations, not very widely used. Then 7 groups, which is not that bad. So do we have the recommendation, or the question here was like, do we have all teams well defined? Do we need any new ones? Is there anything that we can improve on in the different departments? The review ticket flow. So do we have a recurring batch of clients that can be included in an organization? So create organization inside Zendesk, and then you add some users, which can be categorized by maybe by region, maybe by a partner, or yeah, different partners, and or different products that you sell, depends. And if they reach out, then you can create special business rules based on based on what organization is reaching out to you. Okay, so then the roles for people. So yeah, these were the regular roles. I noticed that there were, for example, 9 administrators, which is why are there 9 administrators? It's advisable to have 1 or 2, and because administrators obviously can change anything inside the system, and you want to limit people to being able to make too many changes within the system, because that's how you end up in having let's say a clogged system, a clogged Zendesk, because everyone has permission to do everything that they can, everything that they want, and obviously with good intentions, people just make these changes or go ahead and try to improve Zendesk, but then without understanding it, how it properly works, they don't know what it impacts, right? So they make these changes with good intentions again, but then it's like making it worse. So yeah, advisable to have 1 or 2 administrators, and everybody else should be an agent. And yes, obviously you do need maybe like a team leader to maybe make changes to ticket fields and such, but not everyone to be an administrator. So yeah, this is what I mentioned. Like, yeah, I recommend rethinking the structure of the roles a bit, because it seems that everybody seems to be able to see what's going on and make changes. It's not very good. Okay, so now moving along. Data fields, 2 user fields, no organizational fields. So yeah, ticket fields and forms. 34 custom fields, 7 system fields, and 6 active forms. So why aren't forms being used in the widget as well, right? I mentioned earlier, it's very good to have your forms activated in your web widgets. So customers can go in and submit a request. Very easy from a main website. Yeah, very good to do. Why do we use blah blah? Okay. Okay. Why do we use default form? Okay. So this is me asking, like doing the in-depth analysis, like why don't you have any custom fields in this form? You just have email, subject, and then description. Like, why don't you ask users to maybe say what type of request that this is, right? So is it a billing issue? Is it a product issue? Is it a bug? Whatever. Is it what's your location? I don't know. So you can go nuts with this, right? You can capture anything that you want regarding the requests, so you can more easily offer support, right? The more you know about what the customer wants, the easier it is for you to get back with an appropriate answer. Instead of receiving the ticket, then an agent has to go, okay, what seems to be the problem? Where are you located? What's your account number? When did you make the purchase? Right? So much better to ask for this information. It takes maybe I don't know, like a minute or two of the client's time, but that's fine. It's fine because it helps you help them faster, and they in return are happier because you help them faster, right? So I cannot stress enough how important it is to capture the minimum amount of information that you require to assist your clients. There are cases where you have, for example, over 10 fields to fill in for your users. That's when you're stepping into the negative, let's say, of it. It's too much. You're asking for too much information. So you have to be mindful when in customer experience to ask for a minimum. So let's say from between 7 and 10 fields, that's fine. If you go over 10, you're making the user a little bit stressed and making them less likely to want to fill out that form. And yeah, you don't want that. You want to be somewhere in the middle. So 7 fields, maximum 10, still good. Customer won't go like, holy shit, what is this? No, that's fine. All right, so then views, the number of views is a bit high, so we can maybe look into reducing the number down. So as you know, on the right-hand side, you can see 14 views, right, that are available for everyone. -2, because administrators see suspended tickets and deleted tickets. And so agents only see 12 views, right? And then you have some space beneath where you see personal views. So the idea is this: the more like a something which gives you a bit of perspective. The more granular your groups are, the less views you need. The more broader your groups are, the more views you need in order to accommodate and facilitate your agents to see the tickets that they're supposed to be working on. So again, don't be afraid to create granular groups. So groups, if you don't know, but if you're here, okay, you have to know. So groups are a way for you to create departments within your team, so you can assign different tickets. And for example, there's the billing department, there's the finance department, there's um, product documentation or product group. There's, I don't know, product 1 group, product 2 group. Now, for example, if you offer support in multiple areas, in multiple regions, you can have billing France, billing Germany, billing UK, and then you can have finance France, finance Germany, finance UK. There's nothing wrong with that, because the more granular your groups are, the easier it is to create views, because you can just have a few views, like for example, my tickets that are assigned to me, tickets that are unassigned, and then all the tickets in my groups. So essentially, on an oversimplistic way, you would just need 3 views if you have the teams well defined. Obviously, there is no one way of doing it, but this is something which I've I've learned to use more and more because it gives it such an say easy, um, less cluttered system when you look at it. So when you look at it, you have only 3 views. That's all you need as an agent. No worries. If you're an administrator or team leader, yes, you do need maybe 1, 2, or maybe 3 or 5 more views to keep an eye out for the more important tickets, for the tickets that matter more, VIP or whatever. All right, so for macros, 109. So the order of macros seems a bit confusing, and we have to look into categorizing them for a better agent experience. So when you create macros, you have to be mindful that you can create categories, right, with the double colon, double colon. You create that, let's say, accordion type of navigation for your macros, and agents have an easier time to navigate through them and see what exactly they need to work on or they need to use, right? Macros are templates, and the easier you find your templates, the better. Okay, so macros, good. Dynamic content. So in this case, this customer was only working in UK. This account review is applied to a customer, and then we're going to look at another example where the customer is more international. Okay, so recommended use dynamic content to be used, especially now that you're looking into expanding your support to other countries. This can be used in macros and in help centers and in other business rules as well, right? In triggers and automations as well, right? So this customer in this case was creating macros for German, macros for for France, or creating macros for all countries, right? So a macro which is trying to treat one problem trying to treat the same problem in the UK, in France, and Germany. So instead of using dynamic content, they were using 3 types of macros. So I've seen this happen very, very often, which is not ideal. And you'd want to just have use dynamic content, much more elegant, much more organized, much cleaner. Very highly recommended. Okay, so triggers, for active triggers, some triggers have not been used and could be activated. Yes, so this feeds into what I've discussed earlier, that some teams come in, they set up something up, then another team comes and creates something on top, which makes everything a mess. And some tickets, they don't care about how for example, some triggers, they don't care about what has been done in the past, like how some triggers modify ticket properties, and then this new set of triggers modifies other ticket properties. I've seen this happen many times where there's some business rules set up that do not simply allow a ticket to be solved. Why? Because one trigger is setting it to open, and then another one is when your agent is trying to set it to solve by hand. There's this trigger which automatically sets it back to open because it has a different, special kind of tag. It has a special, I don't know, drop down being chosen. So without knowing what is going on and why that is happening, agents have to resort to all sorts of hacks in order to get rid of those tickets, which is very stressful for an agent. You want your agents to have a smooth experience, so they focus on the important things, not trying to hack the system in order to get their workload diminished. You want them to have smooth access. You have to want to have the templates for them, like macros. You want to have them know exactly what tickets they need to find, so their views very well set up. Routing rules have to be set up very well, so everything gets assigned correctly, so they don't have to waste time in reading through tickets, categorizing them. No, those have to be done either by someone who is let's say that's their job. Any ticket that comes in assigns it they assign it to the appropriate team, or you have business rules in place, triggers, which automatically pick up the ticket by its properties and then assigns it again to the correct group or person to take care of it, that ticket. What else? Comment update. No, okay, so this is me going into the details of this specific account. Automation, 12 automations set up. Again, much like triggers, automations need to be to take into account what you're trying to do, what the business processes are you trying to solve. So you make sure that you don't create overhead. So I've seen, again, in countless occasions, I've seen this problem of automations firing in loops in tandem with triggers, and then, for example, processes would not be able to finish. Would also send like countless emails, like maybe 20, 30, or whatever, however many per day, and which would make like an agent's inbox go nuts, and those agents would become very frustrated, and they wouldn't pay any more attention to the notifications that they were receiving. It was just like a shit show. That's that's the I don't want to sugarcoat it. So water break. By the way, I'm doing these live and uncut. I'm not editing my videos. I made this choice a while back because real life has no video editing. So if you would have a meeting with me, if I feel thirsty, I will have a glass of drink of water, and I don't know. This is like what humans would do. So I don't want to seem anything else that I'm not. Okay, so now moving on, SLAs. In this case, this not being used to its full potential as per the views. So SLAs, wow, I have so much to talk about here, but I'm not going to bore you with this because I'm going to do these types of videos where I talk about Zendesk setup and best practices. So I'm just going to cover like very basic. I've seen a number of times this happened where clients they want to be overzealous. They start with Zendesk and they start with like all of the SLAs, like everything, all of the first reply time, request to wait time, then pausable update, um, all the other three SLAs. The most important ones, in my opinion, are just these two, which will grant you very good customer satisfaction. So first reply time, so the time it takes for you to answer when the request comes into the system until the first public reply. So first reply time, and then request to wait time, which is the resolution time, or how much time it takes from when the ticket comes in until it's solved. So these are, let's say, the basic ones, which if you start out with, it's okay. I've seen this countless times where companies try to use all of them, all the SLAs, and then they become, what should I call them? They become overbearing, and nobody pays attention to them. It becomes a mess. Then after 2 weeks of using them, they turn them off, and then in a year and a half after they get used to Zendesk, they come to me and say, hey, we're ready to use SLAs. Can you come help us out? So be mindful of not trying to overdo it, trying to pace yourself, to take things easy. Zendesk is a tool. It's there for you if you want to see if you're using it to its full potential. Try to take it easy, but the prerequisite is to do some Zendesk training. If you're an admin and you don't do some training, then you're going to have a lot of trouble moving forward and scaling, especially. So take time, make it an investment into your future, and watch some training videos, and then go about setting up things. Um, or not. Don't do that. Then just to call someone like me, and I'll do it for you. It's fine. I come whenever you want. I can come in and help you. But I'm just trying to keep you more organized. So it's whatever you do, it's fine. Just that you have to be mindful, and yeah, it depends on your budget. If you can afford it, then hire someone, a professional. Okay, so after doing this account review, I have some quick fixes and recommendations, which in this case was a high first reply time. So bad customer satisfaction due to it. What you can improve on first here was the forms. Weren't Customer wasn't using forms, very limited custom fields. The widgets weren't customized correctly, so users were sending in requests. They weren't getting the answers because no routing rules were in place or not correct ones. Email was basically not reflecting the branding. It was just reflecting like the Zendesk standard, which is comes out of the box, which is fine, but it confuses the user. For example, if you are communicating with them through like a regular basis through your branding, and emails are branded with your company's logo and colors and spacing and fonts and everything, then you can customize that in Zendesk. It's not very hard to do. Obviously, a developer can do it in a few hours, but you have to allow that resource. Create roles, not just everyone being an admin. Routing, it was very important to be set up. And then SLAs, just use like the basic ones. For example, first reply time in this case, which was very crucial, just to have first reply time and it's the SLA to be reflected in the view, so agents would know, for example, where they would, which were the most urgent tickets to deal with. And yeah, anyway, so this is a quick rundown of Account HealthCheck and how it works. So yeah, this is the first thing I do, right? So this gives me an insight, and let me stop my first thing I do. And let me get some more lighting here. All right. So first thing I do, and then after that, I have an idea of how the system is set up. Roughly takes about 1 day. After this, there's your team shadowing. So I do, depending on your team size, in this one that I want to focus on, the 300 plus agent team, I had to do agent shadowing, I had to do team leader shadowing, I had to do admin shadowing. So and then I had to do some sponsor, not shadowing, but the discussions. I'll get into that very quickly. So this takes about, depending on your team size, it takes like from 1, 2, maybe 3 days. In this case, it took about 3 days. Um, so yeah, we did a lot of calls where we, as the name suggests, so agent shadowing. We just sat down with an agent and we saw like, okay, what is your normal working day look like? Let's see what you do. Let's see how you treat this type of ticket. Let's see how you treat this other type of ticket. How do, I don't know, do you need any improvements? Do you think you need something? So after doing the shadowing for agents, then we do the I do the shadowing for team leaders to see their perspective. Like is their working day looking like? Do they assign tickets? Do they have routing? Do they consider it enough? Do they have templates? Um, do they have a big backlog? If they do, why is that? Okay, and then from the perspective of admins, again, you have the same type of approach. You see, okay, what's your normal day looking like? And obviously to be guided through the processes that have been installed, right? What was the initial team's, let's say, perspective that set up the system, and then the second team that came up and installed some additional business rules, and then now where are you? Like, what have you installed, and what is going on? So then we do discovery calls. We do discovery calls with. Let me actually pull this up for you. So discovery calls on about the system setup. Here we go. About the system setup, and yeah, and where it needs to be. So this is a next one. I'm not sharing my screen anymore. Sorry about this. So account health check, team shadowing, discovery calls for system setup and where it needs to be. So this is most of the time happens with the admins and the project sponsor or decision makers. Now, another thing which is very, very important to be done in a system optimization is some homework. So you and your team need to do some homework. I'm going to walk you through how that looks like. So this is use cases. I cannot stress enough how important it is for you to outline your business flows, business processes, user flows, user journeys, use cases, however you want to call them, however you call them in your business. It is important to have these laid out somewhere, um, especially when you've reached like this, let's say this point where you can't move forward, where you're feeling stuck. You have to remember why you're doing what you're doing, right? So the reason why you need this is because you have to have outlined like what processes are you supporting, what types of requests are you supporting, what type of requests come into your system, and where do you want, what are the, for example, the business rules, what are the data, what is the everything that has to do with that request, right? So let's take like a billing request. Okay, do we use, what data collection do we use for these for this, so let's say, type of request, right? What do we need? We need account number, we need location, we need I don't know, client address, we need I don't know, ID confirmation. I don't know exactly, I'm just giving out an example. So, okay, so we have these four fields, right? Okay, cool. So then we have routing. Do we have routing for this when it comes in? Do we route it to the billing team? Okay. What other triggers do we have, right, that are relevant to this? What automations are relevant to this? What macros do we use? Do we have any templates for this? Do we use them? How do we use them? Right? So you have to think about like everything related to that request and what helps you solve it, right? So why is this important? Again, it is because you, for example, if you outline, I know it's, if you outline all of these use cases, I know it's the tedious, most boring thing that you can do throughout, like in your whole day. I know part of this job and making it efficient is boring. Not most of it, but this part definitely is the most boring. I want you to think about this again as an investment into your company's future. If you want to be efficient, you want to have a documentation and keep everything organized. It's in an Excel, or I don't know where you would keep this, but you have to have this laid out somewhere. Why, again, this is important is because two reasons. One is like you see what business rules, what data collection, what macros, what everything connected, views or anything else set up in the system, what is connected and what is being used, and the rest you can just delete, right? So this helps you with the cleanup, right? So this is your cleanup. This is your what gives you insight into what you can clean up. And second, it's because if you are maybe going to be promoted, or maybe you're going to have to find another position to fill sometime in the future, whoever comes after you will know exactly what has been set up in the system. You don't want to uh, commit the same errors that your predecessors did, right? So you want to be organized so you can do your job well and do it right. If you do it right, then it's going to be, everything's going to be fine. Again, I would encourage you to push through this very difficult and very boring part of the job, which is documenting all your business flows, business processes, user flows, user journeys, whatever you call them. Let me share my screen so I can show you what that looks like. Here we go. So this, okay, hide this. Okay, cool. So hopefully you can see my screen. Okay, so this is a configuration workbook. So in this specific example, we're just looking at use case. We're not going to go through this. I'm going to create another video for this. It's at a later point, which is, yeah, not relevant right now. So this is how you create them. There's many ways to think about this, but let's go through one example. All right, so this was created by me. It is being used. What department is involved in this? It's the support group. Use case name, new user account. So when a user is creating a new account, who are the actors? So in this case, it's an end user and or the customer communicating with the agent, and they go back and forth and until they solve the ticket. All right. So the precondition, and this is coming from the email channel. In this example, I'm just giving you basics of how this would go play out for the email channel. You have to do it for all the email channels that you use. You have to use, if you use forums, if you use email, if you use talk, if you use chat, if you use social messaging, if you use yeah, any, maybe the API, anything else that feeds into your Zendesk, you have to go through this. I know I'm sounding like a broken record already, but all right, so let's go. Precondition is like customer sends an email to help@mycompany.com, right? And then this is an inbound message, and if the email is correctly set up, forwarding rules and DNS and etc., it ends up into your ends up in Zendesk, and a ticket is created by Zendesk. So this is a system. Good. So we don't have to do anything right now. Customer receive auto recognition reply, right? So this is a trigger, right? So you were very maybe familiar with notify requester of receive request. So this is a trigger which we know that is comes with your Zendesk already, but we know it is here, so it is relevant. We have it here, right? Laid out. Ticket routing recognizes country and assigns it to the correct group based on the language that the end user has used. This is another trigger. So this is a trigger which is not related to, it doesn't come with the out of the box. This is something which you have to set up, right? If ticket is created, if country is Germany, then assign it to billing Germany, for example, right? Ticket appears in the correct view for your agents to pick up system, right? However, we have set up this view. So it will appear in the correct view. Agent assigns the ticket to themselves or assigns it to someone else. This is a manual process which agent does, right? So in this case, we've identified 1, 2, and this view. So we've identified 2 triggers and 1 view, which we know we need, right? So now what are the steps for us to solve this ticket? So let's go. Agent determines the ticket category. They do this by hand, manual, but obviously based on keywords or based on keywords for email, you can determine, like, for example, if it's a billing request, or anyway, new user account, you identify by new user account, for example, if the user uses that in their email, you can do it with a trigger, and you can identify another trigger, which you can potentially, you see, for example, from the total number of triggers that you have, you check these up and see like, okay, we have these 3 triggers, they're working, they're fine, we need them, they are relevant for this specific use case. All right, and then let's see, agent forwards requests to a third party, different team member department outside of Zendesk. This is a macro, right? So this is, again, I see that I have a macro which is relevant for this new user account, and I need it, right? This cannot be deleted, cannot be deactivated. It's here to stay. Third party confirms that the account has been created outside of Zendesk. So this is an outside of Zendesk task. I don't care for it. It's okay. It's out of my mind. I don't need to do anything. Agent confirms to the end user or client that the account has been created and solve the ticket via a macro. Again, I see 2 relevant macros to this use case, right? So now, expected outcome, let's see, groups and views need to be created for each market. Anyways, now you can see that we have a number of business rules that are related, again, to this use case, right? So when I evaluate, for example, I have, like, this company had like 600 triggers, out of which more than 10% were broken, not working, doing all the bad stuff, like assigning things wrongfully, not allowing tickets to be solved. Very, very bad. So now if you go through these one by one, you can identify all of the business rules and macros and everything that you need to keep into the system. You wouldn't need anything else, right? So after you make all of these, then for example, that company that I keep referring to has had 600 triggers. After doing this use case collection, they noticed that they can get rid of almost half of those triggers. So they're now from 300, from 600 down to 300. They don't even need that much, but imagine like cleaning up 300 triggers. Oh my God, that's like amazing progress, like a 50% efficiency in your system without clogging it with so many triggers. All right, so this is the benefit of having a a configuration workbook and having these use cases laid out, because you can identify the business rules and then you can create them in here, outline them as well, and you have this laid out for you and for future generations to come, which is again very useful for you to use. All right. Afterwards, obviously, after you collect these use cases comes the cleanup, right? Where you are able to, again, identify what you need and what you don't. What you don't, broom sweep it out. You don't need it anymore. You're done. Happy. Good for you. You're doing a great job. All right. So now what comes next is by having all of these, again, account health check, team shadowing, discovery calls on what the system setup is and where it needs to be. Once you do this homework as well, documented use cases, and doing the cleanup, comes the going forward documentation. With the help of this, with the help of everything that I've covered so far, we do going forward document. So this going forward document is a presentation, which I will walk you through in just a bit. So you see what that looks like at the end of the thing, at the end of the analysis. This is what you gain, what you can do in order to see what this looks like. So let me share my screen again. Right. Hopefully you can see it. All right. So this is a going forward recommendation done by me. Right. So documentation overview. What's a go forward document and how you should be used. This go forward document contains optimization recommendations based on workshop sessions held in August, September, and an independent account review. It works in tandem with the optimization workbook, right? So what we've discussed earlier, which includes more detailed next step notes and configuration tracking. This document will be used to consolidate strategic optimization recommendation notes for recent meetings, right? So the meetings that I had with the client, provide the context and narrative behind optimization opportunities, prioritize areas of focus for the optimization. Right, and then I have the documents, which I said are the account review, which we looked at, use cases, which we looked at, and then I also have a legend, and for example, I also add a priority where I need to, where I think that if you do that, it will increase your productivity better than anything else. I document customer experience, I document agent experience and admin experience, right? So we want to make everyone's job easier, more fun, more efficient. Not customers, but agents especially, they can focus on the more important issues, and everything else just be left to either being automated or just nicely set up. All right, so in this case, yeah, the scope of this document at the end of it, right? The project was to reduce complexity and configuration, utilize Zendesk functionality for SLAs, other functionality that has not been used, focus on support and make sure it is ready for future requirements because they need it to scale, verify the current setup is based on best practices and support current business workflows. Now, objectives, I improve the KPIs, so key performance indicators, the NPS score, which is pretty low, so net promoter score. First reply time, very high. One-touch tickets, which were not being dealt with, like one-touch tickets are tickets that receive for example, a reply, and that's it. That's what solves what solves the request. And this usually happens if you have a well-documented knowledge base. I talk about this a lot. So first resolution time, again, like the time it takes for you to solve a ticket. This is needs to be improved. Clear picture of a potential phase two. In this case, yeah, client needed help. They needed also for me to get involved in helping them with this cleanup. It's called collaborative configuration, which at the end of this, the recommendations, which I will go through, then the customer said, yeah, I need your help. I can't do it by myself. This is a big customer. They needed help. We had upwards of 140 hours or something like that together. So like a big commitment. Oops, sorry. Account details, yeah, obviously hidden. So this was an enterprise and the agency's 300 plus. All right, so customer experience recommendations. So what I did is I went through myself being the customer, right, and tried to play around with their system and see, not with their system, but to try to reach out to the client, right, and see, hey, I'm a customer, I need help. Let's see how easy it is. So what I found is like I find it difficult to find the forms in order to submit a request, right? So this was very difficult for me to do, to find the request, right? So problem statement. It's difficult for customers to find a straightforward way to submit a request using the form. Nothing more stressful than wanting to get help, not being able to receive it. Make this what I make the some recommendations. Make the submit request custom CTA a bit more obvious, right? So make the buttons essentially to submit a request, right? So call to action to be more obvious. Add the ability for anyone to submit a ticket, even users that have not signed in. So users were not signing in, and they needed to sign in. And this, was like, why can I just have a field in there and just put my email and then just submit my request? I don't necessarily need that much hassle. Categorize the request based on the location that the user has selected in the front end, a step-by-step navigation. For example, the location and query type automatically filled into the form, which is like a very easy coding thing to do, which is just maybe a few hours of coding, which would greatly improve the user experience, the customer experience. All right, next is requests take too long to be sorted. Right, so this is something which customers dealt with, like, for example, with a high first reply time. This was due to having over 150 views. Obviously, agents had no idea where they were supposed to look for the requests, and to put on top of it, and they weren't using the statuses correctly. They, for example, when they were wanting um, to wait a reply from a third party, they would put the ticket on pending state, not on hold status, right? Because as you know, in Zendesk you have new, open, pending, on hold, and solved, and closed and archived. But anyway, those are not relevant right now. So customers would have to wait for a really long time because there was a mess in there, and agents wouldn't know where to look for their workload. So which resulted in a high reply time and also a very high resolution time. So very stressful. Now, moving on, agent experience recommendation. So upon doing the agent shadowing, I came up with these. Oh, sorry. So an agent, quoting an agent in the shadowing, said, like, I'd like to be able to use chat to sort out some of these requests on the spot, because they were needing to ask for documentation, like, can you please send me your copy of the bill, and which would have been, so they send out an email, and then the customer would take like 1 or 2 days to get back with the bill, instead of just like directly in the chat, like, yeah, can you please drag and drop your request, sorry, your bill inside, or invoice, not bill, inside the chat window, and then the agent would receive that chat window, receive the bill, just directly do something, and then immediately be able to solve the ticket then and there. So another thing to take into account. This is what agents ask, like, please empower me with faster tools that are more direct. I don't know how to use macros. I have them in a spreadsheet, and I used them from there. So agents had no training. They didn't know how to use macros, which is not very cool because you can have all your you can have train your agents to be able to empower them to use the macros easier. Yeah, and then I recommended installing the time tracking app to measure productivity. Encourage agents to create personalized macros as well as general ones that they can use. So not everyone who works the same, and you need to empower those who work differently to to work in a more direct fashion. So exactly like they want to work, like not how I think they should work. It exactly like how they would want to work. So encourage them to do personalized macros or give them the permission as from their roles. Have a session with a how-to tutorial to give them homework. Yeah, all this after doing the training to also have a session like how do you, let's see if you've understood how to use the um, ticket statuses, how you use the macro. Yeah, so have a more, let's say, I don't like micromanaging, but it's like a more, let's say, accountable way of seeing if they actually got what the training was about. Clean up macro lists, yeah, because there's so many of them. I don't know what most of these views are or who uses them. It only has 150 views. Um, Obviously, they didn't know what that was about. So again, keeping your uh, teams more granular or groups more granular helps you have less views instead of yeah keeping it so um, yeah so very broad. um, yeah, so because of the scale of the system and a large number of people having had access to the system with various product skill levels, the sheer number of views is proving to be overwhelming. So clean up the views, do an internal assessment of business rules, business use cases, what I said earlier, what I suggested earlier, and eliminate the views which are unrelated to set cases. Have a global approach of using current user or current users group instead of having a separate view for each ticket type, right? So try to keep more global type of approach, encourage personal views. So agents again would be able to work in exactly like the fashion that they are working in. Like not everyone's the same, and I might want to work in a way that I don't know is personal to me and it doesn't apply to someone else. Yeah, as I mentioned, I have a simplistic approach to global views, unassigned tickets, and my tickets. So unassigned tickets, my tickets, and maybe all tickets in my groups. So this is an even more simplistic one. So unassigned tickets and my tickets. I did this for a team of, I think they had like upwards of 500 people working in the system in Zendesk, and we had like this setup with just two views for team of 500 plus agents. Oh my God. And it worked like a charm. We had very many groups set up, granular, but, and we had someone assigned, like a team leader, who would keep an eye out on the tickets that came into the system. I would assign them, and then the agents would just go into my tickets and work those tickets, and that's it, nothing else. All right, so let's see. I'm just going to skip this one. Oh man. So this is quite this is a feature which I like. So because agents are allowed to reassign tickets back to the group level, this is just a feature like a checkbox inside Zendesk. They skip the queue for high difficulty tickets for other agents to pick up, right? So this is a more, let's say, a finesse type of thing, which it is very good to allow your agents to reassign tickets to other to other people, to other, actually to the group, back to the group level. But this also leads to them cherry picking tickets, which is not cool. Not cool, bro. They cherry pick tickets, and they just they like in a call with me where we're doing shadowing. This agent was like, oh, this is the difficult one. I'm just going to skip it. Not cool, because that means that someone else has to pick it up, or it gets lost in the in all the backlog, because probably nobody wants to pick that type of ticket up, because everyone's like, oh yeah, right, me again. no, I'm not going to do these, right? So to counter this, maybe use like use the play button. So agents take tickets in a random fashion. So encourage agents to use, again with the training, to use the play button feature. Create a business rule to assign tickets to the first person who replies to the ticket, so they don't have to or performs an update to the ticket rather, right? So then they are the assignee and they can't do anything, like, oh man, I reassigned this, but now I'm the assignee. Damn it. Remove the ability to assign tickets back to the group for regular agents. So only allow team leads to be able to do that. So you create like a special role, and only team leaders are able to assign back to the group. Regular agents just can't do that. And it's very important because I've seen this happen quite many times. And it's, yeah, round cherry picking is a thing. I use on hold when I'm waiting for a reply from the customer. Yeah. Oh my God. Whoa. Instead of using pending, they were using on hold to wait for a reply from the customer. Again, poor training, which was, yeah, contributing to a very slow and uh, bad performing customer service system. So with the basic training, agents are now able to know how to use the statuses correctly. They know SLAs will work correctly. Business rules that are keeping track of SLA breaches are working correctly. So yeah, everyone's happier now. Agent admin experience recommendations. So the admins, for example, I don't know who used this setup. Views, groups, ticket fields, triggered automations. So because teams having changed without a proper documentation handover, the result is that different departments have been disconnected from one another and have no idea what has been set up. So this is here to counter that. Internal assessment of who uses what. Creation of a workbook with use cases and account setups, so current and future teams can have an understanding of what has been set up, right? Cleanup of unused data collection, productivity, and business rules. Change management process to be put in place for other teams to participate in the cleanup. So change management process is a way for you to, for example, like out of all the business rules, the ones that you think are not important or they don't necessarily tie up to any of the use cases that you've documented, you put them through this change management process, and you get someone else involved, right? So you put this in change management, and then you assign to, let's say, the IT team. Hey, IT team, I see you guys have created like these maybe 35 triggers. Can you please let me know if you're using any of them? And if not, let's deactivate them. So it helps you with your cleanup. Right. So now moving on, because I'm very conscious of time. So configuration details and decisions. All right. So okay, so then walking this customer through custom roles, which the need for them, right, to not have to have everyone have a respected order, like the in way you do things, and then yeah, I give some recommendations here. For example, for groups, so in the support system, I prioritize this. So inconsistent naming for groups, internal assessment of which groups can be deleted. Um, yeah, so more groups, agents only see appropriate tickets, as I mentioned earlier. Broader groups will encourage the proliferation of custom views. Integrate with the backend system. So this is for users, for user data. So there's this backend system where which was not communicating with Zendesk. So agents would have to take the account number or the user ID of the customer. It would log into to the other system, like the third party database, search for this, then perform an action, and come back into Zendesk. So it's like a little bit messy. Integration with the backend would make everything more seamless, work seamless, and the agent experience would be much more useful, much more easy, right? So you keep everything into one screen instead of having to navigate to two different ones. Organizations, yeah. So grouping everyone into organizations, brands, yeah. So recommendation to use brands better, create custom experience for your guide because everyone had like the same look and feel. Ticket fields and forms. So cleanup always. I recommended to use the ticket type task and due date for some types of tickets. Use the ticket priority field to bump the SLA. And this wasn't used either. Direct users to use the forms on the guide rather than feeding them into your backend system. So yeah, this is very personal, right? Customer wasn't using conditional fields. Use side conversation. They weren't use side conversation and to create maybe child tickets, and you also Slack integration with side conversation or email, which also works to great to prioritize. Okay. Then ticket fields and forms, yeah, to make mandatory fields where it applies. Yeah, 90 plus triggers can go, right? So in this case, no need to assign a tag to indicate what group a ticket belongs to. So yeah, this is very personal, like in depth to yeah what the customer needed. So for triggers, customer added for a short-term approach and then for a long-term approach, which yeah I made here. And then yeah, for automations, the recommendations that we had for service level agreements. Yeah, how to train your agents, do cleanup, etc. Oh yeah, service level agreements again, sorry. So yeah, assign all tickets with priority normal when incoming to the system. So for example, if you everything gets like a regular normal priority and then the SLAs are standard, I don't know, maybe like 4 hours to get back to the client, first reply time, and maybe 2 days to solve their request. If it's more urgent, right, you bump the priority, so then the SLA also gets bumped to maybe 2 hours for high priority to first reply, and then 1 day to solve the request. Okay, views, internal assessment and cleanup. Everything has to do with cleanup first. Views, I mentioned already, like over the simplistic type of approach with more granular groups, and then unassigned tickets and my tickets. Macros, obviously for training, the agents needed training, etc. Oh yeah, and then contextual workspaces. Train agents how to use it because a set of macros and forms an agent can use based on an area because they were using some macros were relevant only for a different area and some forms as well, so they could just limit that with the contextual workspace. And then AnswerBot, they weren't using AnswerBot, very important that maybe they do. Assign someone to monitor AnswerBot and create knowledge-based articles for repetitive queries, maybe like a 4 hours per day or type of approach, right? So somebody is assigned 4 hours of the day has to be spent to just create knowledge-based articles. Again, this is a investment into your future. In this team, because they had like 300 plus agents, one person could give 4 hours of their time to just create knowledge-based articles. So important. Then some apps, yeah, integrate, yeah, this is a backend with Zendesk. Sorry about that. Yeah, some apps that I recommended, long-term considerations. Okay, so in this case, create a workbook for account setup, and each time there are changes, introduce them into the document. This way, there will be documentation for anyone starting out with the company. Train agents and admins, create a new job type for ticket assignment and knowledge-based creation, right? So as I mentioned earlier, train agents are obviously, and then this one, create a new job for ticket assigning and knowledge-based creation, right? So someone who has to be there to just, that's their job, assign tickets, nothing else. And then someone else has to create knowledge-based articles. So yeah, that's it. I know this took a 1 hour and 40 minutes. That's a lot. I need to run, but I hope this gave you an insight as to what you'd need in order to optimize your system. Consider subscribing maybe if you've made it this far. The secret keyword is blueberry apple pie. If you've made it this far, this is the key. This is the secret keyword, and I'll know you watched it all. I hope this was useful, and I'll come back with other videos in the future.